Here is the final segment of that meeting. By way of a disclaimer, I think that much of what was said from all sides, including what I myself said, bears reconsideration or refining in one way or another. But the main point remains. Tony Mazzocchi later came to coin the slogan, "The bosses have two parties, American workers need one of their own." It is hoped that this video will further a discussion on how that party can be built. Many things have changed since this conference, although not the need for a working class party, which is now more urgent than ever. And one thing that the last 30 years has proven, we cannot build that party through supporting any wing of the Democratic Party.
My name is Robert O'Neill. I'm a former member of the National Executive of the Irish Labour Party and also a member of the Plasterers Union in Ireland. I now live in the United States and I'm very happy to participate in the struggle for a Labour Party here. But I would like to just first of all say on my own behalf, but I think I speak on behalf of the meeting, to congratulate Local 444 for holding this meeting. This is a meeting to break the monopoly of big business over American politics. And Local 444 have shown by organising this meeting that they are in the forefront. They are the most advanced local in California and in some ways throughout the United States at the present time, and taken up this crucial question. I believe if we're going to succeed in building a Labour Party, we need to learn the lessons from history. Brother Mazzocchi spoke of these lessons in his own experience. Brother Richard spoke of the lessons also of history. But I think there are other lessons. There are lessons of the brothers and sisters throughout the world. One of the important qualities that a Labour activist has to have is an imagination. We are sitting in this hall tonight. Throughout the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, there are tens of millions of workers and young people who haven't been able to lift their head for 40 years, who are now crushing dictatorship after dictatorship of the Stalinist bureaucrats in those countries. I believe this meeting should send a support to those workers, because they're fighting for the same thing as we are fighting for. Independent trade unions, their own political parties, and democratic rights. But I also feel that we have to learn the lessons from those workers. And we have to take these lessons into our union branches, and we have to put them on the table in front of the union leadership and tell them what is going on. Because if those workers can bring down the powerful military dictatorships of East Europe and the Soviet Union, then the American working class can defeat big business, bring down the Bush government, and establish its own Labour Party. That is the main lesson for us of Eastern Europe. We aren't restricted. We can have this meeting. 2 months ago in East Germany, the workers could not have had a meeting like this. We'd be all arrested. But 2 months later, they brought down the government. Now, how did they do it? They went on the streets, and there are millions. They demonstrated. They went on general strike, and they forced the government to retreat. Resignations, and now the president is actually under house arrest. We got to say to the Labour leaders in this country, the working class has the power. Brother Mazzocchi, I agree with him 100%. We have to respect the power of the bosses. But I also say we have to understand the power of the working class. We are more powerful. We are more powerful than the bosses. They all go on their holidays. In fact, they do practically no work, and people don't even notice that they're missing. But if we take the day off, the country stops. We have the power. And that's the main lesson of Eastern Europe. And the way to succeed in the Eastern strike, and the way to succeed in the UMW strike, is to do with the East European workers. General strikes, mass demonstrations, and take on the government. Incidentally, I believe we should take note of something. It's very interesting from the point of view of this meeting, is that in Eastern Europe, they are not one-party dictatorships. In East Germany, there were three before the dictatorship was defeated. There were 3 political parties. And in all the East European countries, not the Soviet Union, there was more than one legal political party. But the problem was that the bureaucratic dictatorship controlled all the parties. Now in America, there are 2 political parties. But it's exactly the same, only instead of the bureaucratic dictatorship doesn't exist here, the dictatorship of big business controls the two political parties. So in actual fact, on that question, there's not that much difference. And what we are fighting for is to break the monopoly that big business has over American politics, so that we, the working class, can have our own party. And that's what this meeting is about. And those are the lessons, in my opinion, we have to learn. And in relation to the Democrats, probably everybody here agrees that Democrats are a big business party, but we need to restate the Democrats and Republicans operate on the basis of American industry operates. That is division of labor. When the working class are going forward, big business puts the Democrats there to suck them in to their political system. When the working class are being driven back, the Republicans are given the whoop, drive them back even further. And the only difference between the Republicans and the Republicans say, I'm going to cut health spending by $100 million. The Democrats said, no, under no conditions, we're only going to agree to cut it by $99.5 million. And this is the way they play the game. And the Labour leaders go along with that, with the exception of Brother Mazzaghi. And they say to the workers, you see, do you want 100 million or 99.5 million? Now, I'd like to just go on and make one final point in relation to this, about what we are fighting for. Many Labour leaders raise the question, just a detail in passing, you can't have a Labour Party in this country because it's not a parliamentary system. They'd get any argument to stop fighting for Labour Party. Well, in Brazil, they have exactly the same political system, a presidency and a legislature. In 1980, there was a steel strike, a metal worker strike in Sao Paulo. At the end of the strike, the workers formed their own political party, the Workers' Party it's called. They put up a candidate, Lula, in the election, and he's now in a runoff with a reasonable chance of being the president of Brazil 9 years later. This is in Brazil, under a dictatorship. We guys throw out this nonsense, you can't have a Labour Party in this country because of a parliamentary system. And the final thing I would say is about the programme. Because I believe it is important that we clarify the programme as we struggle for the Labour Party. But I also believe it's necessary to qualify that whatever the nature of its programme, a Labour Party in America is a major step forward. If you take the unions in America at the present time, I don't agree with their programme. What's the programme? Make concessions to the bosses. I don't agree with that programme. But yet, if we had no unions, it would be an absolute catastrophe. And if we build a party of Labour based on the unions, even if its programme is concessions to the bosses, that's still a huge step forward. Because we have something to join, fight through, and in every election, big business has to decide what are they going to do in case everybody votes for the Labour Party. Changes the balance of forces. However, I do believe a programme is important. And I just state the programme finally. The programme that I would fight for is a $10 an hour minimum wage for everybody, a 32-hour work week, a free health service, cost of living adjustment for everybody, free child care for everybody. And in these terrible dictatorships of Eastern Europe, it's very interesting. In East Germany, everybody has free child care, even under dictatorship. We haven't advanced that far in the United States. I also feel we need to fight for free education and housing for everybody, like the brothers and sisters have said. But the question comes up then, how are we going to get it? Big business is not going to get it, not going to give it to us. We're going to have to take it from them. And if we start taxing them to tax their profits and all, what they're going to do? Close down the factories, close down the money, and they'll take it somewhere else. So I believe we have to come up against this thorny question of the private ownership of the means of production, distribution, and exchange in America. There are 500 corporations in America. They are a dictatorship over America. We never elect the board of directors. We don't even know the boards of directors, and they run the country. I feel the programme of the Labour Party has to be nationalisation of the 500 corporations under workers' control and workers' management, and a plan of production on a democratic socialist basis. Now, of course, the Red Scare will come up. It's a very simple answer to them. When the SNLs went bust, what'd they do? They went to the SNLs and they said, well, all these crooks have been robbing the SNLs. You shouldn't have done that, you're bad boys. Then they turned to the working class and they said, what? You're going to have to pay $300 billion to bail them out. And what they did with the SNLs, they took the ones that were bankrupt, and we should use this word. They nationalised the debt of the SNLs. Wasn't any Reddit scare against the Democrats or Republicans. The Labour leaders should have launched a scare against the Democrats and Republicans. They should have said, you are nationalising the debts, making us pay the debts, and the ones that are not bust, they give them back to the private sector. So we say if it's good enough for the bust SNLs, it's good enough for the 500 corporations.
This is Erwin Bauer, a retired auto worker.
I came today because Tony Masaki was going to be here, a national leader of a large union, addresses the Labor Party issue. He's a pariah on this subject in the trade union movement. Now, that's what the important part of his presence is here. And those who think they can step outside of the trade union movement and organize a Labor Party have got something to learn. It doesn't happen that way. It'll never happen that way. A Labor Party will come out of the labor movement. And there will be no other way a Labor Party can be built. When we finally succeeded in organizing millions of American industrial workers, when a rotten scoundrel took up the cudgels, John L. Lewis. He was a rotten bum who actually killed progressive socialist miners, was in the process of doing so. And yet when he took up the schedule, the idea of an industrial union, he broke the union in half, took out the CIO, and it took that break in the formal trade union movement, as lousy as it was then, to create the idea that here was a movement that people could join. And I tell you, a Labor Party will be built that way.
I'm Marge Clauser from Communication Workers. I work as a clerk at the phone company. I think on the question of whether a Labor Party should run candidates, it's kind of maybe, it seems to me artificial to say at the beginning, no, not until that big day in the future sometime. I think it'll come naturally. That is, for instance, what if this meeting was a meeting of that Labor Party and there was a candidate at an election here in Oakland? We would, the practice that workers need in finding a candidate and electing them is sort of an organic thing that should start as soon as possible.
What I'm proposing is what I'm proposing. And I am appealing to those who see this proposal as having validity and want to work within the framework of the proposal. For those who don't, I respect your opinions, I respect your views, and you want to do what you think you should do to advance the interest of working people. And I think the proposal I've put out, I've tested among a lot of rank and file leadership, I've tested it on a lot of regional leadership, and they're prepared to go. Some of the brothers and sisters mentioned Stump. He won on a write-in vote. But listen, it's like stepping off onto another planet when you go into mine country. And you have to be realistic. I mean, where in the hell do you go where you've seen signs, we don't serve state police here, and where every business has a sign in a window, we support the UMWA? That's a whole culture. That's a different country. It's a different planet. And programs, hell, we could spend nights on programs. I have my own that I think we could lay out there. I think we need to create the spaces so we can argue what that program should be. I think that's the first step. What type of organizational structure where we can conduct the discussion about what that program should be. I'm Secretary-Treasurer of an international union. I know what resources mean. I know what it is to look at $1 million or a couple of $1 million bucks, and other people with 10, 20, 30, 40, or 50 million. That's the type of resource that exists, not to be built. So, you carefully strategize on how you want to proceed. My proposal is a serious one. I intend to move on it. You'll hear about it. Those of you who are members of organized labor, who wish to be part of this, certainly I hope you leave your names. And I think we could resurrect this movement if we stand for something. And we have a vision, and a different vision. In order to have a discussion of how do we meet the challenges that are being posed to us, not only by society, but by nature requires the type of formation that none of us even dreamed about. I believe that working people are the only ones capable of addressing the most serious issues that confront the globe and the planet. And for the first time, a lot of these solutions require global international labor solidarity. We can't talk about this question. I'm meeting with my trade union brothers all over the world and saying, this is the question of carbon dioxide is not something to solve in the United States. It's something we can only solve in unison. You know, for the first time since the dawn of mankind, we have an issue that can unite us. These environmental issues. That's a subject for a whole programmatic approach. And as I say, those who agree with the proposal, we welcome you. Those who disagree, I wish you the best of success in your own endeavors. I know that collectively we all stand for the same thing. Thank you.
I'd like to close this meeting with an adoption of a resolution. This meeting recognizes the struggle of workers and youth in Russia and East Europe, South Africa, and the whole world. We call for the right to independent trade unions and for political parties of the working people throughout the world. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? I'd like to thank all the brothers and sisters for coming out again tonight. Thank you.